Welcome to Secrets of Stand-Up Comedy. I'm Richard Francis Williams. I'm going to tell you everything I know about stand-up so you can be the best possible comedian you can be. I want to talk to you about what it is you talk about on stage. One of the quickest and best ways to stand out from every other comic is to pick interesting premises, things that haven't been done to death. You know, comics talk about hacky material. They often say, the old reliable example is airplane food. But there's a lot of other ones that have come up now. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. I just did a one-nighter here locally, and it was challenging, and I'll probably make another video about that, but I'm a little frazzled. My hair looks crazy. I've obviously shaved. Somebody in one of the comments said, wow, it doesn't even look like you anymore. So yeah, I change it up a bit. At your next open mic that you go to, keep track of how many comics talk about dating, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all the dating apps. I have to camouflage some of what I'm about to say because I don't want to have the visibility lowered in this video. So there's certain things you have to do with YouTube. So prawn, people say that instead of a different word that sounds like that. You know, the adult movies that are on the internet. People talk about that a lot. That site where, for fans, it's really only for them. You get it? You get it? Male comics will do a lot of jokes about what's down there and this, and also being like a loser. A lot of comics talk about that. And I'm guilty of all of these things. I don't have a joke about every single one of those topics, but we do it because it's familiar. It's what we're thinking about at times. Write what you know is what they say. But you have to expand beyond that, because otherwise it becomes boring for the audience. It's so been done to death. Think about Tinder. I don't know how many years that's been around, since 2012 or something, maybe. I don't know. You can look it up. How many thousands of comics have written jokes on that? Do you think you're going to top it? Again, I'm guilty of it. I have a joke where I go, hey, it's kind of my birthday today. And the crowd claps, but they're confused. I go, yeah, I turned 35 on Tinder, because you have to show up in the search results. And, it's just filler. It's just to get an easy laugh. And I know it probably doesn't sound funny to you, but trust me, it crushes. Especially when I originally wrote it, I changed it to 27 because it's a little bit more ludicrous. But that's how old that joke is. So if you're there and you're just talking about those topics, you're probably not going to have the funniest joke that's ever been written on those topics. And the crowd's going to feel like, okay, I just saw 10 people kind of go over the same stuff. Wow, every comic here tonight is single. What a surprise. I want to go through a couple well-known comics. I have no cards here. Nate Bargatze. I looked at one of his albums, Having Only Child, Christian Parents, Left and Right Part of Brain, Walking Dog, Waitress Quitting, Buying Ice. Do you see how none of that, I haven't listened to it, but I assume none of that touches on any of those topics that comics normally talk about. It makes them stand out. He brings us into those worlds because he's given a lot of time, thought, and energy to finding out what's funny about that. Gary Gulman, I've referenced this a couple times, but his whole bit about the United States abbreviations, he's known for that. There's plenty of things like that out there. And his album, The Great Depression, Drinking Fountain, I Love Basketball, In Defense of Millennials, 1980s kidnapping hoax. Think about you're at an open mic and somebody does like a 5-minute bit about the 1980s kidnapping hoax. It's spectacular. You're going to be memorable. School football, psych ward, and probably my favorite, because I know the joke well, because, you know, he talks about depression a lot, or at least he did, eating ice cream with a fork. That being one of the signs of depression. So while a lot of comics may talk about depression, he really breaks it down and gives very unique takes on it. Do you see the difference between that and making a joke about you and your girlfriend breaking up? Or, you know, people leaving comments underneath those videos that you can look up online? It's like two different worlds. So really give that some thought. And I've been working with some comics in the personal coaching, and I'm going to have an announcement about that in a second. But it's great. There was one comic. So I'm seeing more of that exploring other ideas. There's one comic he does a whole story about like the mythical journey his cat has been on. And I'm like, dude, that's, especially because of what he talks about and the way he talks about it, it's amazing. If you're having trouble trying to think about these types of topics to cover, just go through an old encyclopedia or online Wikipedia, pick a letter, and scroll through and learn about something. I saw this thing come up on Facebook about pigeons. You may have seen it by now because I think it went viral. Pigeons, they're hated now in New York City, but at one time they were the way that we got messages to people before the telephone, courier pigeons, and they were treated like royalty. And so we basically bred out of them all their survival instincts. It's really heartbreaking. I don't know how much of this is true, but it sounds true, so I'm going to go with it. And so their way of finding food and, their natural habitat, all of that was taken away. They were kept as workers and really held up on a pedestal. And then they came along with the telephone and were like, beat it, pigeons. Now how do we treat them? They basically rely on us, but we're like, get out of here, you sky rat. And it made me start thinking, what if we did that with mailmen? Once email came along, it's like, Daddy, who are those guys over there by the garbage? Oh, those are disgusting mailmen. Stay away. They spread disease. They have ticks, whatever. That's an example of something that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. And I got that idea, and I haven't developed it fully, but just from reading about something, reading about pigeons, find those angles. Really step up your research and the other things you're interested in that not every other comic in the country is talking about. So that's the lesson from this video. Onto the personal one-on-one coaching. The first thing I'll say is a comic friend of mine, just a friend of mine, Mo Green, he left a comment and he said, hey man, I would book a session with you, but you sound so depressed and sad when you're talking about it on the channel. Like, I don't want to hear it like that. I want to hear you be upbeat. And it's interesting because it goes back to my mindset of, I want to give. I don't want to ever ask you for money. That's why I don't sell a course or a book. This is my class and it's for free. But he's right, because what I'm doing with comics, it's very valuable. And it's $100 a session, but for April, I cut it to $50 because I know that you don't have a lot of money. And I'm not doing this to become a millionaire. It wouldn't work. But I'm going to extend it for May. So it's only $50 for a one-on-one session. And I can't tell you how helpful it is to comics. I've worked with a number of them. One guy got a new 5-minute closing bit. Another one, we not only talked about his act, but he wants to go into public speaking, like be a national speaker. And just from us talking, there's a beautiful story between him and his brother. And I'm like, dude, this is your motivational speech, and you can be funny along with that. And I'm going to make a video about branching out other opportunities besides just relying on the clubs. There's another comic who talks about loneliness a lot. And I said, hey, what if you tried this? And he's trying it at an upcoming show, and it's kind of out of the traditional box of stand-up. And I've also given jokes and punched things up. And so, yeah, it's well worth it. For me to say that, I really mean it, especially for $50. This is how the sessions work. You send me your writing, like your set, have it written out in an email, and also a video clip of you doing that set or a recent set that you want to work on. I go through it ahead of time so that doesn't count towards the hour-long session. Then when we talk, and you start all the communication by emailing me at richwilliamscomedy@gmail.com. It's right here. I figured out how to do that part, technology-wise. And so you send me all that stuff. I go through it. I get an idea for who you are, where you're at, how much experience you have. If you can include that in the first email, I've been doing it for 2 years. I've been headlining for 5 years, whatever it is. Most of the time it's people starting out. But I've worked with famous comics in the past. I used to charge $100 a joke. So it's kind of funny, like I feel bad charging $50 for this. And then we talk for an hour. And that hour usually goes longer than that. I have to kind of pull that back a bit because sometimes I talk to people for 3 hours. But I don't watch the clock. So don't feel like as soon as an hour is up, I'm going to be just hanging up the phone with you. I try to limit it so it's not more than an hour and a half. And comics really get a lot out of it. Because for a lot of you, this one comic told me a story. He said, yeah, I took a class for 5 weeks and we had the showcase, and then all of us were just kind of thrown out into the world. And okay, go make it as a comic now. Sometimes you need somebody with experience to give you some guidance, not just about your material, not just about how you perform, but what's your next step? What are your goals? How do we get you closer to what you want to do? And I've done pretty much everything in stand-up. I just never had a special. And nowadays, comics are doing things that are unbelievable. Bert and Tom Segura have their own vodka. I never expected comics to have their own brands of stuff. Before it used to just be, you're touring and maybe do an arena. But now comics have licensing deals and they're like college athletes getting ready to go to the pros. It's pretty crazy. And sometimes some of you just need to be told, yeah, you should keep doing this. You're funny. And I'm very honest with people because if you're, not that good, I don't think you have a future, I would couch it in a way to say like, hey, if they're new, I was horrible when I started, so I would never discourage anybody, but I would maybe guide them in the right path of look at doing this just for fun and see how much better you can get. But the experience I've had so far is every comic who has contacted me has been good. Some of them have been exceptional. And I'm honest with them with both my praise and my critiques because I don't benefit from gassing someone up, or I definitely don't benefit from tearing somebody down. I want to help you. That's why I made this channel. And The good thing is when I'm a bit, very cut and dry with my critiques, you know that you can trust my compliments. So that's what I do with that. And I think if you decide to do it, I mean, invest in yourself. You want to be a comic. You are a comic. You're doing it. This will accelerate your growth so much quicker. You could also find a headliner that you open for to do this with you. It's more difficult. Comics that are working comics, they don't have a lot of time for this stuff unless you're really good friends with them. And that's why I'm offering the service. It was because I feel like I'm explaining it too much. Somebody who watched the channel asked me if I would do this with them, and I said yes, and I thought, oh, this might help other people. So it's my full-throated endorsement of doing the one-on-one sessions. I know that it will help you. That's it. I'll have another video coming out soon. I want to do more of these on a frequent basis. Life has been kicking me in the balls lately. I'm still dealing with that tree falling in my backyard. I'm still dealing with my van having problems. I'm still dealing with, health issues, but I'm still going. They say that it's going to be tough at times. And when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be tough at times. You don't realize what that means until those tough times hit you. But just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You have a show, it doesn't go well, get up and do another show immediately. Just keep moving forward, keep making progress, and find premises that are unlike any other comic. Explore something you're interested in. If you're into Dungeons and Dragons, talk about that. If you're into the history of Rome, talk about that. Relate it back to modern day. There's so many different things you can talk about on stage. So in the earlier videos, we talked about kind of how to write a joke. It's roasting life. It's roasting things you experience, busting balls, just trying to make yourself laugh and make fun of something. And now step it up to open yourself up to exploring and learning about different topics and different things that have happened and different ideas. Maybe do something about string theory. I don't know. You're the comic. You figure it out. That's it. I'll see you next time.